Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerfherder Council.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nerfherder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on our Facebook and YouTube pages, and we are also live on the Facebook and YouTube pages, channels, whatever the hell you want to call them, of the virtual Cantina Network. We are also streaming live on the Nerfherder Council Twitch page. We are live at those locations every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. As always, guys, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you would like to get some awesome virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And for customizable Nerfherder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. Without further ado, let me bring on my esteemed co-host, world traveler. He is back from, as I said on the last show, gallivanting all across France. He is, of course, my best friend and brother, AJ. What is going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? It is great to be back on the show. I'll tell you what. What's it been, a month and a half now?
Yeah.
I mean, thanks for holding down the fort while I was gone there. I didn't make it through your entire 2-hour filibuster. I'm sorry. That was you went live at 2 a.m. France time, so it was kind of hard to hang out for that. But good show overall, though. I definitely checked it out in post. So thanks for keeping that running for us, and I'm looking forward to a bold new year. What about you?
I am too. I had such a good time that I'm just going to do the show solo from now on. So thanks for coming on. I will see you another time. It's my show now. There we go. It is now the JT show. So welcome, everybody. I'm not having anybody on. I'm just going to filibuster any damn full time. I can't even joke about it. There goes AJ off camera. Oh, my gosh. Look at that. He's like, nope, I'm not coming back.
Okay, anyway.
Yeah. So, it is good. It is good to have you back. It was fun discussing my perfect movies list. I actually went longer than I thought I would. It's funny because like when you're doing that, you kind of feel like you're not giving enough detail without someone to bounce ideas off of. And then I realized I was going really long. It's like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Every time I have to do a solo show of any kind, like a Lego stream or whatever, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to fill all this time? And then I see it's like 3 hours later, like, oh, dude, bust out.
Exactly. Dump out. So yeah. Nick Hall says, chair cam. Exactly right, man. That's funny. Yeah, so real quick, I didn't get it at the intro because you know what helps to do an intro is to actually put yourself on camera. So that was nice. On my part, I was so busy doing behind the scenes stuff we need to do that wasn't loading quickly enough that I was in a panic. So, so the views of the Nerfherder Council do not necessarily represent those of the virtual Cantina Network, and there may be some bad language on our show. So if you don't like that shit, might not be the show for you. So, however, we can confirm there's no politics on our show. Unless you're talking about the taxation of intergalactic trade routes over the sovereign system of Naboo. Otherwise, politic-free zone, which these days is a beautiful thing. So there's a positive thing. So, so anyway, this is a topic that you had brought up. So you're going to kind of lead the show tonight, as it were. But I think it's a good one. I like this idea. Obviously, everyone's heard by now, but Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down as president of Lucasfilm, and Dave Filoni is taking over. What's the other guy's name? I always forget the other guy's name. There's some other dude that keeps being mentioned as
not a dude. It's Lin-Wen Brennan is going to take over the business side of things as president.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently she's been running as vice president or EVP actually and general manager at ILM for 16 years. So it's not like she's new to the company or new to the process or anything.
Okay,
she's just been working in a slightly adjacent capacity. So, but no one's talking about her. No one cares about the bean counting.
Well, I apologize for being an ass. I was not aware. I thought that was a man. It wasn't specified, so that's my fault. I wasn't being judgy or misogynistic, so I apologize. But okay, Lin-Wen. Okay.
Mm-hmm. She's Welsh, so I don't know. Maybe it's like an ethnic name or something.
Okay, so that's why it threw me. Okay. Well, okay, so those are the two people that are tasked with running it, but obviously the main focus for most fans, I would say, just as you said, the bean counters are not generally discussed a lot. But yeah, I think this is definitely about, it's definitely a Dave Filoni-esque, Dave Filoni-esque topic, I would say. So, where do you want to start? I guess it's not a surprise, but it's huge news. I mean, it really is. And if people don't think it is right now, it definitely is going to be as the year as time goes on. So,
yeah, in terms of the news cycle, this isn't news at this point. It's a week and a half to 2 weeks old. I wanted to come on and talk about it, one, because we haven't. And I mean, we're a Star Wars podcast. We're kind of obligated when who's running Star Wars changes. It's pretty big. It's only happened once in the lifetime of the franchise. So
yeah,
I feel like we've got to weigh in a little bit. And also, of course, as internet fandom will do, most of the stuff that I've seen has just been people coming out and just bagging all over Kathleen Kennedy. And as much as we joke about stuff and try to be a little sarcastic, we are not a negative podcast at all. So I think it's time to, is KK stepping downing? Okay.
That is fantastic. We have a Judas, we have our first ever Judas Priest reference on the Nerfherder Council. We've been on for over a decade, and this is the first time we've had a Judas Priest reference. That's from our buddy Cale McLeish, and he says, "Okay, Judas Priest pun aside, this is going to be interesting." So, continue, sir. So,
so I feel like it's a good time to look back on everything that Kathleen Kennedy was in charge of, instead of just, because it's so easy to say, "Well, the sequel trilogy sucked, and it's all Kathleen Kennedy's fault, and the Acolyte sucked, and that's Kathleen Kennedy's fault." And yeah, but there's so much more to it, right? Like she presided over Lucasfilm for 13 years, almost 14. It's a hell of a long run. And as far as like how much Star Wars we got in that time, it's a ton more than George Lucas ever put out. So I feel like there's so much different about the way the franchise was run and where it was at as a franchise under her leadership versus George Lucas's, that it bears a more, I guess, objective approach, but at least a balanced approach, right? Instead of the typical internet thing of just, well, we get clicks if we just hate on everything and talk about how much everything sucks. Like there's a YouTuber YouTube channel called The Gold Man, and he does a lot of retrospective stuff. And he put out one called The Failure of Kathleen Kennedy. Like he just summed up the entire run as, yeah, it sucked. And of course it's got, hundreds of thousands of views and yada, yada, but it's not true. I don't think that we wouldn't have this podcast still if Star Wars had gone in the toilet like everyone says it did.
Yeah.
Just because you don't like everything doesn't mean that everything was trash. So I figured we would go through, give our take now that we have like a complete body of work on Kathleen Kennedy, and try to balance that. One on like, was it any good? And then also like compare it to what her job was. Because I think that's the first place to start, is that like George Lucas was an independent filmmaker. And because of the success of the first movie, he had more money than he needed to continue the franchise how he saw fit, instead of having to go to studios and kowtow to whatever studio executives said he should do. Whereas Kathleen Kennedy came in after the sale to Disney, and now she's got corporate overlords. So I feel like it's not fair to really compare George Lucas Star Wars to Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars just on that alone. What do you think?
That's an interesting point. See, it's hard for me to discuss that because I don't feel like it was wildly different. I may have opinions on what quote unquote feels like Star Wars with a couple things, but to me it was all Star Wars. It was just, I mean, you could say, okay, it's higher budget, this, that, and the other, looks more slick and everything, but it's kind of hard to compare with the early George Lucas stuff because that was practical filmmaking. That's how movies looked back then. So if it looks a little dirtier, grittier, things like that, that's just how things were. So I think, yeah, I mean, John Phillips says it best. Thanks for tuning in, man. He says, nothing is going to change. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's going to change now, and I don't think it changed with her very much. I mean, it was very George Lucas-esque. It was she took chances on things. And I mean, we've said it on the show so many times. That's the George Lucas spirit. So to me, it was never this earth-shaking thing. It was just, pardon my language, fuck yeah, we're getting more Star Wars. And so
I feel the same.
I'm completely with you. Like, as you said, we're a positive show. I mean, not always, and we could be dicks about certain things, me in particular. But I mean, on the topic of Kathleen Kennedy, I don't understand the hate. Like, what are you not? I mean, what are you not seeing? There is no Star Wars right now. I mean, as you said, we're not talking about this right now if it wasn't for her. So, and I mean, look at this. Nick Hall, he says, can't rag on Kathleen for batting over 300. I mean, okay, let's say that is what people think. Like she got like 1/3 of the stuff right. Okay, but there's like multiple projects every year, so you can't really complain. I mean, that's a ton of really good Star Wars. I mean, look at that. Nicole Purgle would disagree. Kale, we're a positive show. Purgles have entered the chat. I said if we could be dicks about some things, particularly me. I couched my statement. So
see, you can't even blame that on Kathleen Kennedy though. Dave Filoni, current president of Lucasfilm, invented that under George Lucas.
And that's why I'd like to say that I fucking hate this decision and it's going to be terrible.
No, Purgle came in Rebels, and that was Disney era.
Yes, and that's why I want to say I hate the Dave Filoni hire. It's going to suck. Star Wars is going to turn into trash, and I'm no longer a fan. Oh, sorry. I'm having Cleveland Browns.
All right, thanks for tuning into another episode of the Nerfherder Council. We are brought to you by Audible.
On that note, we'll close up shop. Yeah. But anyway, so John Phillips, interesting. He says none of her or Disney Star Wars is in the cultural zeitgeist. All right, that's an interesting point to chew on a little bit. And
Mandalorian, Grogu.
Okay, Grogu, that's a perfect example. And I'm going to dispute it on another level. I don't think that's fair to say, John, because Star Wars is, the original trilogy is so unbelievably legendary. And I mean, it's like a once in a lifetime thing. That's like, to me, that's like saying, oh, well, Wolfgang Van Halen's good, but he's not his dad. Yeah, no one's ever going to be Eddie Van Halen. Just like nothing's ever going to be the Star Wars original trilogy. I mean, let's face it. Everyone talks about the fact that, Rogue One is like this damn near, it was on my perfect movies list, for Christ's sake. But anybody discussing that movie in terms of quality with Star Wars and everything, almost everyone's putting Empire ahead of it. Certain things you're just not going to surpass. So I don't think that's really a fair assessment, at least to me. Would you agree? Would you disagree?
Like you said, the original trilogy, well, it is in the zeitgeist in such a way that you can't expect it to be followed with equal success. You only have a first time to do a first thing. So you're not going to have episode 7 be groundbreaking like episode 4. Which sounds dumb because it's not episode 1 as a soundbite, but you know what I mean? Like the first Star Wars movie is going to be way more iconic than anything else. I would argue based on that, it's not in the cultural zeitgeist. How much prequel stuff is in the cultural zeitgeist?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all original trilogy. So even George couldn't follow up his own stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's too difficult. John asked in the chat, he says, can you quote anything from it? Nick says, I'm one with the Force and the Force is with me. And I'm thinking this is the way. So there's a couple things, but yeah, that's a great point. And George didn't follow up his stuff either. What can you say about the
fans of the franchise? We like all of it, but in terms of anyone who's not a Star Wars fan, you ask them what Star Wars, they're going to say Darth Vader, X-Wing, Han Solo.
Yeah.
Like all original trilogy stuff. They're not going to be like, oh, I love the Venator class Star Destroyer. That's amazing. Or they're going to make fun of Jar Jar and say it's the dumbest thing they ever saw.
Yes, that's true. Honestly, if you're going to say what's in the zeitgeist with the prequels, you almost have to say Jar Jar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know anything
and it's not in a
else that has
positive
that big
way.
impact.
So
yeah.
Congratulations. You instead of being famous, you were notorious.
Top Gun, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You mean notorious.
So
yeah, look at this.
So yeah, the sequel trilogy came in kind of behind the eight ball there, right off the rip. But we have been on record. We're aligned with most people to say the sequel trilogy had a whole bevy of problems, and we're kind of split on episode 7 itself, which was the first thing out the gate. So my personal take on episode 7 was it was necessary in the form it took.
Yeah.
But it wasn't risk taking, like you said. So in the spirit of George Lucas, utter failure. But from a business standpoint, like what movie did Star Wars need at that time? I think it was successful with the job it had to do. Now that we have the entire body of work, though, what do you think?
I think I've made this point before. I understand it, but I don't like it. But that's coming from someone like, when one of my favorite bands goes on tour, I don't need to see, like, for example, if Van Halen, like if Eddie was still around, they go on tour. If they didn't play Panama, Jump, Hot for Teacher, Running with the Devil, You Really Got Me, I'd be fine. Give me Hear About It Later, give me Top Jimmy, stuff like that. Give me DOA. Like I don't need the greatest hits all the time. I need some Van Halen I haven't heard. And so with Star Wars, like when episode 7 was to me such a direct rip off of episode 4, I was pissy because I'm like, well, I've seen this. I wanted something new. I mean, we never thought Star Wars was coming back. Like, give me some new Star Wars. We got new characters. Why do you have to redo the movie? So I understand that maybe this was needed, but
maybe I think this was the beginning of the I've heard the term Lego sequel era, where it's something that you're gonna bolt something on like decades after the fact and continue it. Like, oh look, they're back again. They're doing it in Marvel. Like basically all the Disney properties and beyond are all doing these like long-awaited. Star Trek did it with freaking Picard. They brought back the Next Generation crew 30 years later.
Yeah.
Remember when the original cast was put out to pasture because they were too old to do it anymore? They were like 20 years younger than the Next Generation cast just did, a couple of years back. So
but that was an original story though, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't, like, oh, like we're back. Oh look, here we're gonna fight the Borg again.
That's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did.
All right. Well, so I would have been like, okay, we've seen.
They had Q. They had the Borg in all 3 seasons, and guess what ship saved the day in the final climax of all 3 seasons of that show? They got the Enterprise D rebuilt. It crashed and was destroyed and replaced by a whole other ship for 3 more movies, and yet they managed to rebuild it and bring it back for the finale of this TV show from 30 years later. Like, you talk about winding the clock back in every way, shape, or form. We've got with the Ghostbusters franchise, and I hear there's another Gremlins in the works and maybe a Goonies. Like, all this shit is just like
a Goonies.
Basically, Star Wars is not the only franchise that was like, you know what, we're just going to go crank out more of what we did in the 80s and the 90s because that's what sells. It's people want to bitch about episode 7 for being a rehash of episode 4, but it made boatloads of cash, and that's what Disney wanted. They wanted people to feel like, hey, that's a Star Wars. That's exactly what I remember Star Wars to be. I feel better now that George Lucas isn't making it, but I can still go to see a Star Wars.
Well, but see, I think that's
what it was designed to do, and that's what it did. It wasn't now, as we already know from story treatments and whatnot, George Lucas would have done it very differently, and probably not as successfully, to be honest. So based on what what the goals were that Disney handed down to Kathleen Kennedy. That's the thing. I think Kathleen Kennedy was answering to someone else. So she couldn't really step too far outside the lines. And she says as much in this the interview that's being quoted is she did an interview with Deadline called The Exit Interview. And she talks about that, basically saying, like, you know, we try to take risks, but everything had to be run through Disney, and they've got shareholders. And that's why movie studios in general are just very risk averse right now, because it's really hard to pitch shareholders on a bold new idea when they know if they just crank out the same crap, it'll make money. So how do you follow a spirit of innovation like Star Wars when you're answering to shareholders?
I think she did a great job at it. Honestly, I think without that guardrail, we'd have gotten some terrible stuff. I really do. I think the whole Star Wars is woke crowd, I think you might have actually seen that actually come to fruition if it was just, you know, do whatever the hell you want. I don't, you know, because as we've said many times in the show, I don't subscribe to that whole theory of Star Wars is woke, Disney Star Wars is woke. Like, but I think they might have said, we're going to be really dangerous and daring and done stuff where you could go, okay, well, maybe those idiots have somewhat of an argument, you know, like, but yeah, I think she did a great job within the parameters that she was given, because she did take chances, but it didn't stray so far where it didn't feel like Star Wars. You know, even the stuff that I didn't care for, you know, like John Phillips, you know, he's talking about, you know, Ahsoka in the chat. He said, you know, I'll try to give the new head some slack, but Filoni failed with Ahsoka. Yeah, I don't like Ahsoka either. I didn't like it at all. But it felt like Star Wars to me. And it was, you know, just another adventure in that universe. And so I thought they did a good job with that. And especially, you know, things like Rogue One and Solo, like how especially Rogue One, like if that doesn't feel like Star Wars to you, then you're in a coma. or you're just you're willfully trying to be pissed off about something.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was just like, I mean, I came out of that movie going, oh my God, was that awesome? Like, you know, so yeah, I mean, I understand like reporting to shareholders and things like that, but you know, I kind of again, I kind of think that might be a good thing, because how many times have we discussed the fact that a lot of the things that people have a problem with in terms of the prequels is because George Lucas had no one to tell him no. He surrounded himself basically with yes men. And I don't disagree. I don't agree with that, because I love those movies. You know, I will forever call myself a prequel apologist. I love them. You know, I'm not just saying it to be the cool kid on the block, you know, or to be risque. But yeah, people complain that he, you know, didn't have anyone to say, hey, Jar Jar is stupid, or, you know, don't make poodoo jokes, things like that. You know, like he just was going to go forward with it. And you bring up a great point about what George Lucas would have done with the sequel trilogy, because if people are complaining about it now, I mean, he flat out said that he was going to explore the midichlorians more, and everybody hated that for the most part. So he was going to take this thing that everybody hated and go, yeah, well, here's 3 more movies of it. Mm-hmm. So pick your poison, people. I mean, like,
and that's the thing is, like, we have all this supposition about, oh, what it would have been, and it would have been better if George was in charge. We have no idea.
Yeah.
So all we have is a concrete body of work over here with Kathleen Kennedy, and then this theoretical thing over here. They're like, oh, it would have been so much better. Based on what? Like, we have nothing but these like story ideas that were rumored. It's not like anyone read the scripts or anything. It's the same thing where people say like, oh, Rise of Skywalker was trash. And yes, we don't like that movie. And we read Duel of the Fates and it sounded better, but who knows what final form that script would have taken and what would have ultimately ended up on the screen. So we could still only speculate.
Yeah. Nick Hall says, I think Acolyte could have been better without the guardrails. They had seeds planting for what I bet they would have gone for without being sidelined. that is always going to be such a polarizing thing, Nick, because I don't have the same problem with it that so many other people do.
Yeah,
I really don't. But
I'm happy to debate respectfully, but I'll stand. I did rewatch it, and I'll stand by it. It was a good story idea that was made badly as a show. I don't think the problems with The Acolyte were with anything on the story they were trying to tell. I think it was how the story was told.
Yeah.
Again, when you live in a stone ziggurat and it burns down,
they didn't fireproof it, dude. We've been over this.
It's stone. You don't have to fire. You know how you fireproof a building? You build it out of stone.
What if it wasn't stone? What if it was a different space material that occurred on that planet that's actually flammable? You don't know.
Well, that was the most flammable damn stone I ever saw. So,
well, look, I'm in the middle of reading an awesome sci-fi book right now, and there's a lot of like really cool ideas based on things we haven't seen in our universe. So there you go. So maybe that was one of them. Flammable stone.
Plus, you don't take a non-English speaker and tell them to have to say the girls over and over and over again. That's just not even fair.
True. So John Phillips, interesting. He says, AJ, they spent way too much money on The Force Awakens and especially Rise of Palpatine, Rise of Skywalker. That's interesting, John. I mean, I don't think there is such a thing. I mean, if they want to blow a shitload of cash to make a really kick-ass looking movie, I'm fine with that. So I kind of enjoy that. I like that they weren't nickel and diming it. You know what I mean? Because I think that would have been way worse if you come out with this Star Wars that looks janky. And I mean, look at some of the test footage of the live action show that George Lucas was working on and scrapped. I mean, granted it's test footage.
Yes,
but
thank you.
With the technology at the time, people would have been bitching up a storm about that. I would have thought it's cool as hell because it's live action Star Wars, but people would have been complaining like hell. So the fact that they threw money at it, I kind of like. So, Kale with an interesting question. This is in response to our discussing The Acolyte for a second. I wonder if Dave can revive it because that second season made promises we'll never see cashed in. Wait, are you talking about Acolyte or
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're talking. Yeah. I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, Kale.
That does raise an interesting point based on my criticism of season 1 is, yeah, maybe with someone else making the show, it could be awesome. Again, my problem wasn't with this. I don't think anybody had a problem with the story, especially because everyone's losing their mind over, oh my God, there was Yoda at the end and we saw Darth Plagueis poke his head out. Okay. So those are 2 story beats, 2 cameos. That's why we love The Acolyte is 2 cameos that have nothing to do with the story that was told. No one's like, I want to see more of the Stranger and the twins. No one gives a shit about them. They just give a shit about the one character we already know and the one character we've been waiting to see the whole time. So
yeah, that's I still can't believe that they finally bring him out and it's in like the most poorly received show that they did. Mm-hmm. Although technically I think in terms of like ratings, I think Skeleton Crew was the worst received, but I thought that show was fun.
I love Skeleton Crew. I think that was great.
I think.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was only going to say, and then we'll move on. But yeah, I think that one got unfairly ignored by people that heard the comparison of saying that it's Goonies in space, and I think they went, "Yeah, I'm not watching that." So
it's weird, this revisionist history where people think that everything George Lucas made or approved was the highest form of art. Like, does no one remember the fart jokes? Jar Jar,
yeah,
the Droids cartoon, the Ewoks cartoon, the holiday special.
Look at this. This is interesting.
Like, there's all kinds of goofy shit in the George Lucas era, though. And people want to say that like every time Star Wars goes off the rails in recent memory, it's like this heresy. And like, dude, Star Wars has never taken itself that seriously. That's the point.
Yeah. Look, John Phillips, he says, well, the prequels cost less than The Force Awakens alone, and they look better. That is
all right. You're gonna send me on to Google on my own podcast. Here we go.
Them some fighting words right there, man.
Wow. Star Wars movie budgets per film. Come on, Gemini, help me out.
I gotta say, John, I can't necessarily say one looks better than the other. I think they're two different looks because that's what they were going for. So, oh boy, here we go, Rocket Man.
If we trust AI, I can give you some numbers.
Let's see what Rocket Man has to say. Good to see you, bro. It says the Kathleen Kennedy years, aka how Star Wars became irrelevant and boring with the worst writing and character development. Good riddance to her. I rarely do this. I'm good, but I am going to say you are flat out incorrect. It's not irrelevant. It is not boring. There's some really kick-ass characters. One is my background. And I don't think all of the writing was crap.
I could almost agree with the first one. I feel like there's
Irrelevant?
No one's hyped about Star Wars right now. Like as a huge, Lego fan, obviously, I see what Lego puts out, and they obviously put out what's going to be most popular, and they just keep cranking out original trilogy. Maybe some sequel stuff or prequel stuff. No sequel stuff whatsoever. Like there's nothing unless there's a new show on Disney Plus or a movie they got to support, which there hasn't been since Rise of Skywalker, and that only got like 2 sets, I think. Lego doesn't even touch anything from the last 10 years. The Mandalorian is the only thing that they juice.
Well, remember, we still have 10 years to go. You know how these things work. When it hits 20 years old and you get a celebration like, oh, it's the 20th anniversary of blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, it's the most godlike thing you've ever seen. Everyone loved it. And, it's, revisionist history, rears its ugly head. And that's how it goes. That's how it goes. So I don't know. Nick Hall makes a great point here. He says, I think the best byproduct of the Kathleen Kennedy era Star Wars is we got more content and we heavily debate it. Polarizing is memorable. Bland is forgotten. Yeah, I agree. I mean,
that is a really good point. It's actually, it's funny he says bold, actually. I wanted to, because that's actually a word that she used in a quote. I want to read this to you. So in this Deadline interview, she was asked about the progress of current films.
Okay.
And obviously she said, I got to tread a bit carefully here because there's a lot of stuff in development and she can't, spill all the beans. But it starts off here, says, I remember when I came into this job, the first thing Bob Iger said to me was, be bold. I've always liked that because I think you have to be bold and you have to be willing to take risks with people and ideas. Otherwise, you're just doing the same thing. Right now, we're in an era where companies are so risk averse, and I get it. This is back to the Wall Street thing. I hear all the conversations. They've got Wall Street to please, and I get it. But I also believe that's what contributes to things disappearing. Ultimately, I think you just have to take those chances. So whether or not you agree that chances were taken, she at least espoused the idea, like Nick Hall said, that if you're just going to hit repeat, copy and paste, it will ultimately fade away because it's forgettable because it's not the first time it came around.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I just, like I say, I'm sorry, Rocket Man. I can't agree. I think there's a lot of good stuff to latch onto. And like Nick said earlier in the chat, you can't really complain if she's batting 300. I mean, if you're getting a
Rocket Man, I'd like some more details, actually. I want to know what parts were boring. Because if it's the new characters, that's a conversation. If it's, wow, I really don't like what they did with Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series. Okay, well, now that's a legacy character. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I didn't think anything, even the stuff I didn't like, I didn't think was boring. I mean, the only thing that I guess that I could really say that did, nothing for me that I watched, because I don't watch Visions, because I tried watching about 5 minutes of that. I was like, no, this is definitely not for me. Was it Resistance, the animated thing?
Yeah.
I just was like, okay. I mean, I watched a couple episodes and it did not grab me at all.
As much as we hate it, Star Wars Rebels, a lot of people love Rebels. Virtual Cantina Network had a whole series, Rebels Rewatch, Rebels Revisited.
I mean, to each their own. Yeah.
A lot of people
their own.
really, I mean, that's why the Ahsoka series got greenlit, was because Rebels was, I hate to say beloved, but it really was. Like, people really latched onto that stuff. They latched onto it well enough that they greenlit a live action revival of the show.
Called Ahsoka.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely true. I mean, yeah. How do you get Dave Filoni to make the transition from animation to live action? Well, what if the live action show was just a cartoon?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I mean, hell, that I mean, we can get to this later, but I mean, that was going to be one of my things I'm concerned about. Are we just going to get like live action Filoni-verse and that's it? How much?
We did that episode, what, 2 years ago? 3 years ago at this point? Are we already in the Filoni-verse? Yeah.
Yeah. It's sorry, my hood is really pissing me off. Sorry about that. Little breaking the fourth wall there.
Well, you at least got to do it like the Jedi way. You got to saunter up first. First, if you're a Sith, it's down here. But otherwise, you got to saunter up and.
I just couldn't get it balanced.
I know that.
Limit. I don't know if you're allowed to quote Obi-Wan. You crap on that show way too much, and it's so good.
Dog shit. Worst thing ever. We're online. I can say that.
All right. So what you're telling me is you're Rocket Man. You're just logged in as somebody else.
No, but that's a good point. I was just going to transition to that, though. With all the stuff that they've done, they've covered everything from prequel revivals to sequel trilogy and, Disney Plus shows with new characters and timelines. And, we went to a whole new galaxy in Ahsoka. I don't think it's a bad thing that not everything has been received positively by all sections of the fandom. To her point about being bold, like unless you're aiming for the absolute middle, which was episode 7, right? It's what they call the 4 quadrants when you're trying to figure out your audience for a movie. If you can hit old, young, male, female, then you've got everybody on the planet.
Right.
That's what they aim for. That's why we get so much bland shit that is like the summer blockbuster. They're trying to appease. It's that thing. Like, if you appeal to everyone, you speak to no one. But it's enough that people will buy a ticket to go see it. And then forget about it in 2 weeks when they're on to the next thing. But I like the fact that Star Wars is kind of like all over, like Visions. I don't like Visions. You don't like Visions. But some people love Visions because they're anime fans. Okay. And then you know what? I love the Clone Wars Season 7. Great. Some people are like, enough Clone Wars already. I hate that show. Some people, kids who grew up with the sequels, they probably love Rey and Kylo the same way we love Han Solo and Darth Vader. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's what, Rocket Man's comment about, terrible writing and no character development. Like, I don't know, man. I like the character of Rey. The sequel trilogy is hard when you're talking about character development because it happens in such a short window of time when you think about it. Because episode 8 happens right after episode 7 pretty much, and episode 9 is not too far off from episode 8, so it's not like when you have years to of development like you did in the original trilogy or whatnot, or especially in the prequels. But I thought the characters were cool. He says Ahsoka proving that Qui-Gon Jinn died like a little bitch, and then he says I'm rage baiting a little, but thanks to her I stopped caring about Star Wars. And that's rough.
That's the worst. Like, I learned a long time ago, I had an interpersonal communication class in college, and they were talking about like the emotional spectrum and stuff, and how like love and hate are the same dynamic of emotion. Like they're both like up here on the emotional scale. They're just opposite each other, right? And so like if you don't love something, you can't hate it. Like you can't have an all negative reaction if you didn't care that much about it in the first place. And the point was like indifference is really like the worst. Like, if no one gives a shit, that is, you have failed to stir someone's emotions, and that is way worse than someone hating something. So as much as people don't like some of the Star Wars stuff that's come out, they care about Star Wars enough that they hate it. When it gets to the point of like Rocket Man is saying, like, I just don't care anymore. It's like me and the Browns. Like, you got to win me back right now. You don't affect me.
I was going to use them as an example too, because I'm very apathetic, and that's making me apathetic to the Cleveland Browns is damn near an impossibility.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't even imagine someone hating Star Wars like that, man.
And that's the worst. Like if they continue to hate it, they continue to care. If they just say, I don't care about Star Wars, that's worse than hate.
Yeah.
Then you got if they still hate it, they'll pay attention long enough to find out a reason to continue not liking it. But if they just don't care, stuff's going to come out that they will never see. And that's a problem. So on the flip side, we were talking about like diversity being a good thing and not an old wooden ship. So yes, you have all this breadth, but do you feel like the lack of focus might have been a problem for the last 13 years or so? Because we've got different eras and, you know, characters, and we got movies and TV shows and cartoons, and was it too scattershot to really keep people invested? Because you were talking about lack of character development, for example.
I think that could be a thing. Man, that's hard. Because when you ask that question, I think about the oh god, I'm drawing a blank. The Marvel multiverse. I think of the multiverse where it's like, okay, what is the point of this? There's like all these like C and D level characters. You know, there's a million realities, so nothing like we've talked about. It's like that's stupid. But I think Star Wars being scattershot, you know, I think that's a good term. That didn't bother me as much because I'm like, okay, they're different storylines. They're different. They're entirely different chunks of a larger universe. So you could get into it because there were different stakes there. You know, things were real. Things were tangible.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me.
But it is a different approach. Because I remember the prequel era, you were not going to find anything original trilogy in the prequel era. It was all prequel stuff. It doesn't bother me, but I do prefer it that way. And I mean, I could use Marvel again as an example. I love the Infinity Saga. Everything was one story. And it was like, okay, where are we going? Like, we know there's an end point eventually. Or rather, we know there's an end game. So it's great for our audio viewers. Yeah, like, so we knew there was an end. Everything was building towards this one, you know, huge climax and everything. And with the multiverse, it felt so cash grabby. It's like, well, anything can happen, so we're gonna make anything we want under this dumb umbrella of it's the multiverse. Everything fits. It's like, well, that's stupid. Like, why do I give a shit? Approach. Yeah.
It's like, why do I give a shit? So, but I think Star Wars, it doesn't really bother me that it's scattershot because, you know, number one, as we famously say all the time, like, even if we don't like it, and making something creates an opportunity for them to then make something that we do like.
One of the first criticisms was putting out Solo 6 months after Last Jedi. So while they're like, Rey, Kylo, Finn, Poe, sequel trilogy, it's after, and then they're like, but do you want to know the early stories of Han Solo? Like, didn't we just watch him die like 3 years ago in a movie?
No, because that didn't happen.
Multiverse. There you go. You just confirmed multiverse.
No, I've told you he's alive, and they prove it in The Last Jedi. I've already given you my theory. It's a real thing, man. They're waiting for the right time to bring it out. You didn't see him hit the ground or anything. It's just he fell into like this, like, you know,
he's hanging out with Mace Windu. I get it.
No. That's why Luke said, "Wait, where's Han?" Because he saved him. He felt what happened. He force floated him to safety. He's like, "Wait a minute, why is he not on the Falcon? I force saved him all the way from, you know, from this little PP island." I told you he's alive. You just mark my words. He's alive. It's a true. It's a real thing. So, see,
I missed
and you know it's. I'm telling you, this is gonna get Rocket Man back on board. They're gonna bring back Han. He's gonna have like the scar, and in true Star Wars fashion, the scar is gonna move. So it'll be like in his armpit one time, and then it's gonna be in his right shoulder one time, and then it's gonna be in his liver. You know, they're just gonna move it around like Kylo Ren's, and you know they'll be like, all right, well, and then I'm gonna be vindicated. So there you go.
Sabine's gonna rock up and be like, yeah, like they thought that was gonna kill us.
Exactly.
And then Qui-Gon's gonna be like, what the fuck?
Look at Nick Hall. Denial still? Can't wait to see anger. The stages of grief. I'm telling you, man, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kale says, if Kylo didn't kill him, the planet exploding sure effing did. I keep forgetting we might get booted off of YouTube for pulling up like curse words on the screen.
What? Seriously?
I've heard that happens. I don't know.
That'd be great. We should aim for that, actually.
No, I'm already mad at like platforms, and I'll tell you what platform I'm mad at. This is a total non sequitur for a quick second, but fuck Spotify, fuck them completely, fuck them. And I'm about to make like a little like 2-minute blurb to post on my music podcast site on Spotify saying "fuck you, Spotify." But I might
feel like this is a
out.
crossover to Talking Into Infinity. So yes, please go.
It is. Basically,
you want to go solo for this one? You want to really like
no.
have the spotlight?
No, it's because I'm not on the right show. But basically, we have like almost 120 episodes. In the last like 6, they've removed because I use copywritten music in the intro. Yeah, I've used copywritten music in every fucking intro for 5 years. Now it's a problem.
Well, you remember we had an audio commentary posted for A New Hope, and because we went silent for 5 seconds and you could hear at like 1/10 our volume, the movie audio that got taken down.
Yeah. I love how these sites will do that, but then with like actual artist content and everything, they won't pay them anything. Oh, but you're using it illegally, so we're taking it down. Fuck you. I hate the way. Anyway, so there's my rant.
This is a perfect segue though, because again, my main thesis was people who want to skewer Kathleen Kennedy for the direction and state of the franchise after her tenure. Like, look at the climate she was operating in. She was working for Disney. She was not just the new George Lucas. If George Lucas had a boss, this is what it would have been. And you've got, shareholders, and you want to drive up the stock price. And so we're in the era of content. It doesn't matter if it's good. We just need shit on Disney Plus because we have to have a streaming platform. So let's shotgun out as much crap as we can get. And, how are we going to get people on board? Let's drag Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen out of Star Wars retirement and try to, film a flashback scene with no de-aging whatsoever and try to convince people that 40-plus-year-old Hayden Christensen is a teenager. That kind of shit. Like, there's going to be some bumps in the road because Star Wars has never operated in this environment before. So I feel like a lot of the things that people want to skewer Kathleen Kennedy for, anyone would have had those problems.
Yeah,
she was doing the job she was given to do. And as much as I hate on the acolyte, like we were talking about, you got to be bold and take risks. I didn't like it. I don't think it was well made, but you know what? She took a chance. Rian Johnson in The Last Jedi, classic example right there. After the success of episode 7, what would be the smart thing to do?
Just another rehash.
Yeah. And that's not what we got at all.
Yep.
Now, the trilogy itself was a disaster. Like this idea that, it's come out that he was writing episode 8 before 7 came out, and, the two camps didn't talk. So it's like, how do you continue a movie when you don't know how that movie turned out?
Yeah.
That is just asinine. So yeah, she's not perfect, but it is a good way to make sure that they're not just doing the same thing over again. And we love Last Jedi because it's specifically in that vein of let's go against the grain. Whatever they're expecting us to do, let's go the other way. Like the easy thing after Star Wars A New Hope would have been let's make another one of those. But George Lucas was like, no, let's completely invert the formula. Let's put the big battle at the front. Let's put the personal battle at the end. And let's just tear down everything about these characters and give them something harder to deal with because it's not what they've already faced. And that's exactly what The Last Jedi did. And then people want to skewer it because they're like, oh, I like the last one, and this one's not like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Empire wasn't like A New Hope either.
Yep.
Attack of the Clones was not like Phantom Menace.
Yep. Yeah, man. By the way, that's an episode tease. Something I came up with, and I'm going to go through with AJ. But I'm revisiting the sequel trilogy for the first time in several years, actually. And I love The Last Jedi, but I found some things that I think would improve the movie for people who don't like it, and it has nothing to do with like plot and stuff like that and character, whatever. It's keeping the characters and the plot the same, but I think there's things you can do where people might not have shit on it so much. So that will be forthcoming on an episode of the show.
Would you remove your mom joke?
Look, man, we're going to do a whole episode. If you want a quick if you want a quick teaser, yes.
Yeah.
That is
there's some wonky shit.
That's a perfect example. But yeah, plot wise and everything, and you know, I just think there's some things that they did that aesthetically I think you can look at and go, yeah, that was weird. But I think overall, I don't have any complaints about the movie or what it was trying to do.
Wow.
Yeah, I do.
I don't want to get too far off topic, but that might be the best looking Star Wars movie ever.
Mm-hmm. But again, we're going to do an episode about it. But yeah. The interesting thing to me about like the people that say, oh, I like the previous one, this new one is crap, this, that, and the other, you know, and it kind of plays into, you know, people who are like, well, Kathleen Kennedy ruined it. Like everything she did was crap. I'm just thinking, and I generally don't like this argument because it's kind of lazy, but I think it applies here. Like my question to them, well, then what the hell would you have done? I mean, she did so many things. How can you blanket say that she completely screwed Star Wars? I mean, I don't understand that. It's like, okay, well then what would you have done? Would you just have done a million more original trilogy stories and just absolutely, you know, like for example, The Last Jedi is a good example. So, and we make this argument all the time. When people are like, oh, that sucks, you know, that's not what Luke Skywalker would have done. Well, actually, yeah, it is. It very much is. I mean, would it have been awesome to, you know, see superhero Luke Skywalker? Like he's a super Jedi now. He just comes out and whoops everyone's ass. Well, yeah. You know, like, you know, yeah. Mm-hmm. Of course that would have been fun. But that's so expected. And I love that they showed a legitimate, real, like you talk about, you know, character progression and whatnot. That's character progression. You take Luke Skywalker and you turn him into a hermit that basically says, fuck the Jedi. The Force is crap. You know, like that is character development right there. I mean, and when you think about it, that is a natural human reaction. That is, if you extrapolate out what he was doing, where he was going, that's where almost anyone would end up. So I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example. It's like, well, you know, I would have liked it either way, but people that have this massive complaint about she ruined it, well, then what would you have done? Just rest on your laurels? She took umpteen chances, man, and some really cool stuff came out of it, you know?
Yeah, like if you want to like look at it, okay, so everyone likes to hold up The Last Jedi as an example of like the franchise losing its direction. Like just lost the fucking plot, right? Because everyone loves The Force Awakens. It's Han, it's Luke, it's Leia, it's whatever. And then they look at Last Jedi and like, oh, that's where it all fell apart. But then Solo comes out, and Solo didn't do well at the box office. By the way, not doing well means it only made like a little over $500 million.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, tell me it was bad and not successful.
Yeah.
But people want to say like, oh, see, that's the proof right there. Like, wait a minute. So the sequel trilogy movie that did make $1 billion, that's the problem. But when they then said, hey, let's go back and revisit an original trilogy character and tell more stories with that, and that's the one that bombs, and they're like, yeah, see, sequel trilogy, it's all bad. But Solo was the flop. They tried to do exactly what you wanted. They tried to pander and be like, here's more original trilogy crap. And people didn't get on board. So, and that alone is wrong too. And that's a whole other thing. We talked about that at length too. Solo is a great movie.
Yeah.
It's at least not a bad movie.
Yeah. SPC Unleashed is tuning in. Thanks for jumping on here, man. They say, I don't know it's a he or she. So they say, there we go. I don't want to piss anybody off. I'm bad with that. I actually liked everything that was put out. The Acolyte was the only project I really wasn't a fan of. Oh, the poor Acolyte. I got to revisit that one too. So John Phillips. Another comment from. I like this one. SPC Unleashed also says Solo should have been the first Disney Plus show. It would have done better, and we could have seen multiple seasons of snuggling with Han and Chewie. Nice.
We're going to assume that's not a typo, by the way.
Yeah. So, look, Rocket Man again, he says, isn't The Last Jedi the same movie that has an animal rights or something like that in the middle of the movie? They're 5 years and they are awesome. I love that part, but I am a huge dog person, so of course I'm going to love the animal part. So, John Phillips has a point here that I think kind of ties into something you actually brought up. He says, if you want to blame Kathleen Kennedy for anything, it's not having a plan. She let Rian Johnson ignore what Jar Jar Abrams set up, and what Johnson did caused the next director to quit. I think that kind of first, number one, you and I have beaten that point into the ground. I think that's the problem with the sequel trilogy is they didn't write a story and chop it into 3 pieces and make it cohesive. But I think that's a great point. Not having a plan that might play into your question about, the
Do we know that
scattershot
she
thing.
didn't, though? Do we know that she didn't? Or is it just a matter of the whims of the shareholders and her overlords caused constant pivots? Because I think part of her legacy is going to be that she was so reactionary. Like they waited to see how something was doing, and then they chose the next project and shaped it based on the reaction to the last project.
I mean, you could make that argument, but I think to say that she was reactionary, I think obviously where you're going is the main example being something like, The Last Jedi coming out after Force Awakens. And they're too starkly different, I think. I don't think you're wrong in speculating that maybe she had like people over her going, oh, change this, change that. But
I think that's the proof of my case right there, though, because they were, like I said, Rian Johnson did not know how The Force Awakens was going to turn out. Like his movie was already being produced and in pre-production when Force Awakens was still in post-production, and they didn't really talk to each other. They were kind of siloed that way. So if she had a plan and she was like, look, we're just going to do like episode 7 and then 7+1 and 7+2, then Rian Johnson would have been handed that and told like, just make another one of these. Instead, she was like, look, we got everybody on board. We sold all the movie tickets we could, $4 billion sale. And we made half of it back with the first movie on ticket sales alone, let alone merchandise.
Yeah.
So keep going with that. Instead, it seems to me like her plan, and this is just speculation, but to have those two camps working independently, the first movie had to get everybody on board with the idea that Star Wars could still be Star Wars without George Lucas involved. Congratulations, episode 7. You did your job and then some. Like, great work on getting everybody on board. And I feel like the reason that Rian Johnson had the leash that he did, or the lack of a leash rather, was, you know what? We're off and running. We've got all the good faith in the fandom whatsoever at this point. So we can get as weird as we want because people will still show up. So she let Rian Johnson make a weird Star Wars movie. The second one was the bold artistic choice, not the safe, financially obvious choice.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
And then when Solo ran aground, episode 9, well, again, also Carrie Fisher, unfortunately, passing.
Yeah,
but yeah, episode 9 was just like back to whatever made money because they got scared. And I don't think that was Kathleen Kennedy getting scared. I think that was Bob Iger getting scared. Sorry, Bob Chapek. Bob Iger didn't come back in yet.
Boff, puke, whatever.
Well, I watch too much YouTube and I'm so used to hearing Bob Paycheck instead of Bob Chapek that
nice. Yeah, I mean, I can see your points. I think, I don't know. It just didn't seem like there was a plan. You know, we've said that, and you asked the question about things being scattershot. I think the answer, I think it's two-pronged, and maybe this is another topic. The second one, on one hand, I would say yes, because she was throwing so many darts at so many things and seeing like, let's do that, let's do that, let's do that, let's do that. But then I think on the other hand, maybe we don't know what her legacy actually is yet, because maybe some of these future projects, which if you remember, they how many times did they tell us, around the time when all this stuff started coming out, with Force Awakens and Last Jedi and stuff, how many times did they tell us saying that, they're 3 years ahead? They're writing stuff that's not going to come out for another 3 years. So when you see, Force Awakens, they're already in 15. They're already working on stuff that's coming out in 2018. So maybe all of these things that she's done, or at least several of them, actually are going to tie into some larger narrative, or they're really going somewhere. We just don't know it yet. So that's what I wonder.
Fantastic point. That is a fantastic point. Because if you think about everything in her reign, I hate using that word, but really, like, she was in charge, so I guess it's a reign. Everything in her tenure as president of Lucasfilm, she was a successor.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is based off of what George Lucas began. So right off the bat, it's like, okay, well, now it's in new hands. Can we still, like, what is lost and what is gained in the transition? And I got to believe that there's a lot of stuff that we love about Star Wars now that never would have happened under George Lucas's watch.
Oh, yeah.
Things like Rogue One, maybe. I'll say maybe. There was enough original trilogy in that with the iconography and everything. Like, there are X-Wings galore and, variations of AT-ATs, and there was the, Chirrut with the Guardians of the Wills, direct callbacks to the draft scripts of the original Star Wars and everything. But then you think of something like Andor, and Andor is so far afield of anything that George Lucas would have made, even though it was in the spirit of and picked up on the themes of the original trilogy.
Okay, I can see that.
So, yeah, like, as much as we want to say, like, Star Wars is George Lucas and vice versa, Star Wars could only be as much as George Lucas could imagine. And then it took someone else to expand upon that. And Kathleen Kennedy herself, not being a filmmaker, just being a producer, was just the person to say yes or no to certain projects.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of what we love about the Star Wars franchise in the last 13 years is all because George Lucas wasn't in charge. And that's the part that gets lost in the narrative of Kathleen Kennedy. They want to skewer her for all the things that they don't like, but they don't give her the credit for all the things that she did that George never would have.
Nick Hall agrees. He says, well said, AJ. Yeah, I also think that's an excellent point. I mean, how much? And honestly, as much as people complain about Disney, if you really think about it, George was always trying to keep things within budget, and he was always like, "Oh, he's trying to keep that independent spirit." Like, dude, I mean, look. I watched the behind the scenes
Within budget.
Yeah, he would write a budget out and be like, "We got to stick to this," because
He didn't have a budget.
Yes, he did. The hell he did not. When he was when he was doing the prequels, what is going on with my voice? When he was doing the prequels, it was definitely like, hey, here's our budget. Like we need to stick to this because of how things ran over so badly on the original trilogy. He was like, no, we're sticking to this. He, did not have the coffers that Disney does. So
I'll give you this. Tying back to what we were talking about earlier with budgets, and if we trust AI, here's the numbers. Return of the Jedi was the most expensive at 32 to 42 million. Every prequel trilogy movie cost 2.5 times that, 113 to 115 million a piece.
Yeah, and
the fact that those numbers are so identical, by the way, for 1 through 3, tells me you're actually right. And yes, George had a very specific financial number in mind.
Yeah, and Disney. I mean, look at the coffers. It's Disney, for Christ's sakes. So if Kathleen Kennedy says, "Well, I want to spend $300 million on a Star Wars project," they're like, "Okay." George Lucas is like, "Get bent, dude." So we wouldn't have gotten, not only story wise, as you mentioned, like it's not something that George would have gotten into. Using your example of, let's say, Andor.
Yeah, the reported budget for season 2 was 290 million, by the way.
Yeah. So basically, like 2.5 prequel movies, almost the entire budget of the prequel trilogy. So yeah, I mean, he financially he wouldn't have done it, and then story wise, like you said, I mean, how much was he going to branch out and say? Would he have even done Rogue One? I mean, if John Knoll goes to him and says, "We should write a movie about how they stole the Death Star plans," like it says in the opening crawl of episode 4, is he going to go, "You got to be kidding me, man"? Or is he going to go with it? It's like, it's not. I can't believe I'm going to say this, and then we'll get to the comment on the screen. I don't think George Lucas. I think he was a little tone deaf. Kathleen Kennedy took the chances to do all this Star Wars stuff because she knew the audience was there. George Lucas was going to give us 3 movies about midichlorians. So
it's true.
So John Phillips says the weakness of Kathleen Kennedy is that she's not a filmmaker. She's never written or directed a movie. She made phone calls as being a very good producer for Spielberg and her husband, and to a lesser extent, George Lucas. I am going to push back on that because I don't think she needs to be a great filmmaker. I think she needs to be a great leader. What she needed to do was to find people who are great filmmakers, writers, whatever, and hire them and put them in the best position to succeed. I mean, I'm in middle management, and I got to, a lot of my team knows more about our day-to-day functions, how to do them, than I do, because they're down in the weeds doing it all the time. But I lead them. I'm in charge of them. And, I don't have to know how to, put, a Louisiana stop loss disclosure together to fit the state guidelines. I have to know that that it has to be done. And I have to, put the right people in place to do it correctly so it goes out with all legalities covered. But I don't have to know how to do it in order to, you know what I'm saying? So I think I would push back a little bit on John. I get what you're saying there.
It ties into our criticisms of the prequels. George Lucas in the original trilogy era, he was the director, but he had a script writer. He had editors, like all these other. There's a reason that the credits roll for minutes at a time. Like it takes that many people. Yeah. And so many of those credits that went to other people in the original trilogy were George Lucas in the prequels. And just because George had a great idea for a story doesn't mean George had a great way to light the scene, write the dialogue, costume people, whatever. Yep. And the more power he assumed, the more people were, like I said, as much as we love 1 through 6, 4 through 6 is the heart of Star Wars. 1 through 3 is supplemental material that is semi-beloved, but not as beloved as 4 through 6. And 4 through 6 was when George had to employ other people to do the things he wasn't so good at or experienced at.
That's a very, very good point. That's a great way to phrase that.
George was good at what he was good at, and in 1 through 3, he did some more stuff that he wasn't so good at. So to say that Kathleen Kennedy couldn't be president of Lucasfilm because she didn't know how to make movies, that's not the job of the president of a studio.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've been scanning this Deadline article as we've been talking here, and she talks about this. She talks about like Andor, for example, how like, Tony Gilroy, he was known for the Bourne identity. Like the Bourne series, like, is nothing about Star Wars. But then, she talks to people and she has an idea of like, oh, they're really good at what they do. I wonder if there's a way that what they do could work within this franchise, that kind of thing. And she talks about that. She says like, oh, trust me, this is a big part of what I try to do. Sit with the people that I would love to see step into this space and create something that we've never seen before. But Star Wars, in this case, she's talking about like Ryan Coogler that did Sinners, which I just saw, and it's an amazing movie. Anyway,
didn't he do one or both of the Black Panther movies? Am I thinking of the right guy?
Yes, actually, yes, he was the director of Black Panther movies as well. I didn't realize that, but thank you. Yeah, there's another Disney project though, so I'm guessing there might be a less than coincidence there. Nice. But anyway, she said, but Star Wars isn't really Ryan's thing. Not Ryan Johnson, Ryan Coogler, obviously.
Yeah.
The trickiest thing is to find a filmmaker and say, you could step into this space and you could still be you. And then she segues into Tony Gilroy. So that was like the thing right there. Is she's saying like, yeah, not everybody's cut out for this, but sometimes you see something and you're like, yeah, that could be applied to Star Wars, but it hasn't yet. Like, we're not looking for everybody to make a George Lucas property, right? And that's the thing. Like, now I want to move forward into like the Dave Filoni era. Dave Filoni is like the Padawan to George Lucas as the master.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think the future of Star Wars is at this point, now that we know what Dave Filoni makes as his version of Star Wars versus what has been produced under Kathleen Kennedy? Where do you see the franchise going now that Kathleen doesn't have the reins? Kathleen,
I'm nervous.
On a first name basis. Anyway.
Yeah. What old Katie's got going on. I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie.
Why are you nervous?
Because it's kind of like the same thing that we said about George Lucas with the prequels. In that there's some things that he's done that kind of seem like he's just plowed forward with some things that aren't the best ideas and just damn the torpedoes and putting them in there. It's like, yeah, you maybe should have like pumped the brakes on that. How much live action Rebel stuff are we going to get? And that one, I guess, is a personal one because I'm not, the biggest Rebels fan. But is it going to be just leaning too heavily on that? I don't think that's the case with him, but I do worry about it. And I guess that my main concern is the things that he has done that I haven't liked. I have really not liked. Whereas the things I didn't like with George Lucas were minor. And the things I didn't like with Kathleen Kennedy was, it's okay. It's not my favorite. But the stuff that Filoni's done that I haven't liked, I'm like, oh, that is garbage. So it does make me nervous. But he's going to have the same guardrails in terms of people over him that Kathleen Kennedy had. So maybe there will be people telling him, no, you're not doing that. We're not doing a National Geographic special about fucking Purgle. So yeah, but I don't know. The one thing I will say, as much as I'm nervous, I am encouraged. I mean, I think you got to give the guy the benefit of the doubt, don't you? I mean, it's he's Dave Filoni, for Christ's sakes. I mean, you can say, and we have tonight. Look at all the Star Wars that Kathleen Kennedy's given us. Well, look at all the Star Wars that Dave Filoni's given us. I mean, he helped breathe new life into the franchise when we didn't think anything else was coming. After Revenge of the Sith, when you started getting the Clone Wars cartoon and things like that, that kept Star Wars afloat because of how good it was, and how engaging it was. And then, when Star Wars did come back, there are things he did, as much as, again, we're not fans, like Rebels, huge success. His animated, a Bad Batch. I mean, you can't really deny the quality of a lot of what he's done. So I'm nervous, but I'm also, I'm going to totally give him, a long stretch of runway before I definitively say anything. Like, let's say the first couple of projects I just think are total garbage. Okay, well, I'll still be waiting for the other ones after that, because I'm like, all right, well, maybe I don't like those, but maybe, he's done enough that I do like that. Maybe there'll be another Bad Batch. Maybe this mall show is like the greatest thing since sliced bread or something. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, where do you stand? I know that's a total fence riding answer, but I think it just means that I'm very passionate about it. I'm either I'm really nervous about it, but I'm also really excited. So I'm definitely not on the fence.
I'm very much on the fence. So it's interesting because I agree with every point you make, and that is why I'm on the fence. He's a disciple of George Lucas, which for most fans, they feel like more comfortable now because he is a storyteller. So, all right, people who love the Clone Wars, and he collaborated with George Lucas on that. So he's good at implementing George's ideas and continuing that lineage. And he's had direct conversations as a storyteller with George Lucas. And that's why people love the Clone Wars, is because they know that George Lucas rubber stamped it all. And no, rubber stamp is not the right word, because rubber stamp means didn't consider it, just said yes anyway. But they worked together on it, right? So if you like the Clone Wars, that's because George Lucas said it was okay to come, that was part of the lore. And so, all right. So George Lucas said, Dave Filoni, you're really good at continuing my legacy in this franchise.
Yeah.
Great. As we've seen, though, Dave Filoni's branch of Star Wars lore is so prolific that I feel like it might be domineering. If you don't like Ahsoka, tough shit. Ahsoka, again, I'm going to cross genres or franchises here, but people don't realize, but who has shown up more often than any other character in Star Trek? Worf.
What? Really?
He was on 7 seasons of Next Generation. He was on 4 seasons of Deep Space Nine. He showed up in every Next Generation movie. So, yeah, he's in fucking everything.
No shit.
Ahsoka had 7 seasons of the Clone Wars. She shows up in 3 out of 4 seasons of Rebels. She's got a live action series. She's everywhere. And she's strangely adjacent to all the major events of Star Wars, but never in the major events of Star Wars. So it's easy to forget her, but if you just talk about how many hours of screen time have been dedicated to this character, yeah, Ahsoka might be the most prolific character in Star Wars. I don't know that for a fact, but
she's like the Sir Robin from she's like Sir Robin from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. All the rest of them run to the danger and everything, and she's just kind of like the one that runs away. That's why she's always on the periphery.
Dude, the biggest unanswered question.
Ahsoka, we got to get in there. Looks like they got it. I think they're good.
That's called the original trilogy.
What? Seriously. We know she survived into the sequels. We know that she was doing shit to form the rebellion, but she's nowhere in 4 through 6. And that has never been addressed.
Even Rex is in there, man.
What was she just like, you know what? This looks pretty bad. World Between Worlds looks pretty good right now.
Right. She was actually in Jedi. Just they didn't show her on camera, but she was in the back of the room when they were like, many Bothans died to bring us this information. Like, all right, who's going on the mission? And Han's like, well, I need a crew. Ahsoka's in the back whispering, going, fuck that.
Yeah.
No way, man. Nope.
Coming for 2027, the Disney Plus super special editions. And then here's Rosario Dawson, like just like superimposed in the background.
She's doing like the secret walk, like the Scooby-Doo, like getting out, like somebody see like the like doing this like in the background to get out of the room so no one sees her.
Yes. Yes,
Ahsoka,
exactly.
Ahsoka, where are you going? Bathroom? I gotta take a piss. Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, hurry back. This is important. Oh, yeah, for sure. Be right back. Yeah. Damn it. I've got that image in my head of Ahsoka actually doing the.
I think you hear Anakin calling somewhere
man.
like around Peridia.
Right. Holy shit, man. Oh.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
that's my hope and concern with Dave Filoni is like, on one hand, yeah, he studied at the feet of the, of the creator. So if you want the most George Lucas Star Wars you can get without having George Lucas write it, it's going to be Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
But also, Dave Filoni has been very good at promoting his branch of Star Wars lore to where if you're not on board with Dave Filoni's version of Star Wars, you're going to cut out a whole lot of the fandom. Like, look, the Ahsoka series was all him. And the later seasons of Mandalorian, when he was more involved and Ahsoka was more involved, and they were trying to build towards this hypothetical Dave Filoni movie, the Filoniverse movie with, all the Disney Plus shows culminating. That's Dave Filoni. Then over here, the most critically acclaimed stuff is Andor, for example. And that is so opposite all the fantasy elements and everything that Dave Filoni's big on, that if you're not all about the Jedi and the mysticism, I feel like you need a 50-50. So I really hope he doesn't lose that balance of the two. Because the original trilogy is not great because Obi-Wan and the Jedi are fucking amazing. It's because you get scoundrels like Han Solo and you have Jedi like Luke Skywalker. So you can't just be like, you know what, the Jedi are awesome and I don't care about the little people. But so much of Dave Filoni stuff focuses on like fantasy, pure fantasy.
Yeah.
And I really hope there's room for some of the non-fantasy and the ordinary in his version of Star Wars. But we haven't seen it yet. So I'm cautiously optimistic. Like if you like the tone of George Lucas Star Wars, then maybe Dave Filoni is the right choice. But I hope he has the understanding that his version of Star Wars, the aspects of Star Wars that he loves the most, aren't everything there is that is good about Star Wars.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it. Would cautiously optimistic be a good way to phrase it then for both of us, I guess? Because I'm really, like I said, I'm really nervous about it, but I'm also really excited. So, and
I'm cautiously optimistic, but I wouldn't blame Kathleen Kennedy for the state of Star Wars at present. I feel like a lot of long-running franchises are kind of in the doldrums right now, especially under Disney.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely, they've done a lot of meme-worthy stuff, haven't they? Yeah, dude, it's interesting. You say I wouldn't blame the current state of Star Wars, blame Kathleen Kennedy for the current state of Star Wars. I would credit her for the current state of Star Wars. I mean, and that's the bottom line. People who complain we don't have, like, I mean, to bring it full circle and kind of, put a bow on things, we wouldn't, these people that are complaining about it and whatnot, we wouldn't have this stuff to complain about. If it wasn't for what she did. I mean, dude, I'd have been happy if all she did was the films. If all I got were the sequel trilogy and Rogue One and Solo, I'd be like, hell yeah, dude. I got, she was what 13 years, he said? We got 5 Star Wars movies in 13 years. We were getting 3 Star Wars movies in 9 years.
Yeah.
So it was close to the same output, but it would have been a little more, prolific. So even that, I'm like, hell yeah, dude. So congrats to her.
To your point about being bold and taking chances, like a lot of people want to skewer her for all the things that didn't work out and weren't well received. That's because she took chances.
Yep. Look, Nick Hall. So that would have been batting 600 for me. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think to close the book on Kathleen Kennedy's tenure, I would say it was tumultuous, but I don't think that a lot of the rockiness of it was because of her choices. I think it was because of the environment and the job she was hired to do.
Yeah.
She made a lot of money for Disney, and that was her job. Now, at the expense of maybe some storytelling. There could have been better stories told, but she wasn't allowed to pursue them, like The Acolyte, like whatever the sequel trilogy would have been. I love the idea, the original concept of like, hey, let's have 3 filmmakers all try to tell one trilogy of stories. Let's get a different flavor in every one. But that didn't work out for a multitude of reasons. Yep. She had so much to deal with. So to say like, oh, she was terrible at her job, I don't know how it could have gone any better for someone else. She was juggling so many different responsibilities that were at odds with each other.
Yep. Yeah.
My thesis of this whole episode was thank you, Kathleen Kennedy. You did as well as anyone could have been expected to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I can top that. I completely agree with you. I didn't like everything. I loved certain things. Certain things I was, I just my overriding memory of her tenure will always be that I had no. Why you got to do that? Now I'm pissy instead of saying something nice. Never mind. I'm not excited for Dave Filoni because that idiot made Purgle. But
exactly.
No, my overriding memory of her tenure and everything is that there was always Star Wars. And when were we ever able to say that? After the original trilogy, you didn't have another movie come out for what was it, 16 years. And then we get the prequels and you're like, okay, well, the story of Star Wars is done. So basically we're going to have Celebration and that's it. But then all of a sudden 10 years later, or, 8 years, because 2013, Kathleen Kennedy comes around and all of a sudden we got Star Wars all the time. So it's like, yeah, hell yeah. So yeah, I mean, to your point, yeah, I say thank you as well. But I will always remember her tenure as prolific and fun. I never in my lifetime thought that I would get Star Wars all the time. And does it make it a little less special sometimes? That's a whole nother argument. But the little kid in me loves the fact that, okay, Mando, how great was it to see a live action Star Wars show? Bad Batch was so freaking cool as a cartoon. Solo, I got to see the backstory of my favorite movie character ever. Rogue One, I got a Star Wars movie I never thought I would ever see. I mean, it's just, so yeah. I got Star Wars all the time, so that's awesome. So On that note, I believe we should close up shop. How about you?
Absolutely. I have nothing to top that. So please get us the hell out of here.
Awesome. And thank you for answering that real quick so I could mute my mic and clear my throat. So yeah, thanks guys for hanging out on another episode of the Nerfherder Council. As always, man, you guys in the chat are awesome. We appreciate you guys so much. Nick Hall, Rocket Man, Kale McLeish, John Phillips, all you guys, SPC Unleashed, appreciate you. Guys drive the show for us, man. So we are going to be right back here on Wednesday, February.
February.
11th. Yeah, February. I always try and get the R in there because, trying to pronounce it correctly. Anyways, February 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. As always, guys, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. And I do have a recommendation for an audiobook tonight. I am currently reading, but if you want to get an audiobook of it, I'm currently reading Project Hail Mary. The movie comes out in mid-March, I want to say, and I am loving it. This is not a type of book I would normally read. My drummer turned me on to it, and he's like, "Oh man, you got to read this. You're my only nerd friend that I will actually read the book and go see the movie with me." I was like, "Well, I like doing that," and I'm loving it. So yeah, if you're it's the guy who wrote The Martian. So if you've seen that movie, The Martian, with Matt Damon, it's that guy, and it's very much like that, very space, very technical, like neutrons, atoms, all this kind of stuff. But I'm loving it. So if you guys want to check it out, you can get a free audiobook. Just go to audibletrial.com/NHC, and you can get that for free. So go ahead and do that. If you guys are watching on our YouTube channel or that of the Virtual Cantina Network, and you have not done so, please remember to click the like button, click the subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time we go live. You can get some Virtual Cantina Network swag at tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. And you can get some amazing customizable Nerfherder Council swag at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. So until next time, guys, which again will be February 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I am your host, JT. He is AJ.
At Drake Adams 579 on Twitter and Blue Sky.
And we will catch you guys next time.